How to tell the difference between true love and a professional scam. It is the question that haunts every man who steps off the plane at Suvarnabhumi Airport. It is the riddle written in the neon lights and the potholed pavement. I thought I knew the answer. I thought I was smarter than the sweaty tourists in their Chang beer singlets. I was wrong. Time moves differently here. Weeks turn into days and money turns into dust. I lost track of time and my savings. All that remained was the void. I am Henry, 59 years old. Back in Manchester, I was just another man waiting for the radiator to warm up in a damp flat. Here, I was an explorer, a photographer. I had my pension and I had my gear. 3 Nikon bodies and 4 prime lenses packed into a Pelican case that was worth more than my life. That glass was my retirement plan. It was my safety net. It was the only thing standing between me and the abyss. I sat on the plastic stool of a street food stall near the canal. The water was black and smelled of sulfur and dead fish. It was 4 in the morning. The city was taking a breath before the sun came up to burn us all alive. My hands were shaking. Not from alcohol, from the realization of what I had done. It started 6 weeks ago. I was not looking for a wife. I was looking for a subject. I wanted to capture the real Thailand, the grit behind the smiles. I was walking down a side street away from the noise of the red light district. The bass from the clubs was just a dull thud in the distance like a dying heart. That was where I saw her. She was not wearing a short skirt. She was not wearing high heels. She was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt. She sat on the steps of a closed shop house with a stray dog sleeping at her feet. She was feeding it balls of sticky rice from a plastic bag. I raised my camera. The shutter clicked. The sound was loud in the empty street. She looked up. Her eyes were dark and wide. She didn't smile. She did not ask for money. She just looked at me with a sadness that felt ancient. I lowered the camera. I felt like an intruder. I walked over and apologized. She spoke soft English, broken but gentle. She told me her name was She told me she was waiting for the rain to stop even though the sky was clear. I sat down next to her. We talked for an hour. She told me she was 24. She told me she was an orphan from Isan. Her parents died in a car crash when she was little. She had no brothers, no sisters, just herself in the city. This was the hook. I didn't see a predator. I saw a bird with a broken wing. I saw a project. Back home, I was a retired teacher. I spent my life trying to fix children who did not want to be fixed. Here was a woman who needed guidance. She needed a father figure. She needed a savior. I walked her to her room that night. It was a small concrete box above a noodle shop. She did not invite me in. She bowed and thanked me for the conversation. No pressure, no business. I walked back to my apartment feeling 10 feet tall. I had found a diamond in the rough. I told myself I would help her. I would teach her proper English. I would teach her about the world. I would mold her into something better than this city allowed. It was the arrogance of a lonely man. For the next 2 weeks, I saw her every day. We met for coffee in the morning. I brought textbooks. We sat in air-conditioned cafes and I taught her grammar. I corrected her pronunciation. She was a quick learner. She looked at me with adoration. She called me teacher. She called me her only family. I felt important. For the first time in 10 years, I felt necessary. But there were signs, little cracks in the porcelain that I chose to ignore. One afternoon, we were sitting in a park by the lake. Monitor lizards were swimming in the green water. Was reading from the book I bought her. Her phone rang. It was a cheap Android with a cracked screen. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. The blood drained out of her lips. She silenced the call and put the phone face down on the table. I asked her who it was. She looked away. She watched a lizard crawl onto the bank. She said it was nobody. She said it was a bad man from the village who wanted to hurt her. I felt a surge of protective anger. I asked if she owed him money. She shook her head. She said it was complicated. She said he claimed to be her owner because he paid for her bus ticket to the city 3 years ago. Owner. The word hung in the humid air. I told her nobody owned her. I told her she was a free woman. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. She reached across the table and touched my hand. Her fingers were cool. She told me I did not understand the rules of her world. She told me that in her world, freedom had a price tag. I should have walked away then. I should have packed my cameras and taken the next flight to Vietnam or Cambodia, but the hook was already deep in my throat. I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be the one who cut the line. A few days later, she didn't show up for our lesson. I waited at the cafe for 2 hours. The ice in my coffee melted. The condensation dripped onto the wooden table. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. I went to her room above the noodle shop. The door was locked. The owner of the shop told me she had gone out the night before and never came back. Panic set in. It was a cold, sharp feeling in my gut. I thought she was hurt. I thought the bad man from the village had taken her. I spent the day walking the streets. The heat was oppressive. 35 degrees and 90% humidity. My shirt stuck to my back. I asked the motorbike taxi drivers. I showed them her picture on my camera display. Nobody knew her, or nobody wanted to say. Night fell. The city changed. The normal shops closed and the neon signs flickered on. The streets filled with women. They stood in rows like products on a shelf. They called out to me. Handsome man, sexy man. I ignored them. I was on a mission. I found her at midnight. She was not in a ditch. She was not in a hospital. She was sitting on a high stool in an open-air bar on Soie 6. The music was deafening. Heavy metal mixed with techno. The smell of stale beer and cigarette smoke was thick enough to chew. Was wearing a pink dress that was too small. She had heavy makeup on, false eyelashes, red lipstick. She looked like a different person. She looked like a stranger. She saw me and froze. She dropped the ladle she was using to stir a bucket of ice. I walked into the bar. The other girls looked at me. They saw the anger on my face. They saw the desperation. They backed away. I grabbed by the wrist. I asked her what she was doing here. I shouted over the music. She started to cry. The black mascara ran down her cheeks. It ruined the perfect mask she had painted on. She told me she had no choice. She told me the bad man found her. He demanded money. He told her she had to work off the debt or he would hurt her family back in Isan. Wait. I stopped. I looked at her. I said she told me she was an orphan. I said she told me her parents died in a car crash. She looked down at her shoes. She sobbed. She said she lied because she was ashamed. She said she had a grandmother, a sick grandmother who needed medicine. She said she was the only one who could provide. The logic was slippery. It changed shape every time I tried to grab it. But looking at her crying in that terrible place, I didn't care about the logic. I only cared about the pain. A large woman appeared from the shadows at the back of the bar. She was the Mama San. She had a face like leather and eyes like polished stones. She wore gold chains around her neck and wrists. She put a hand on shoulder. She looked at me with bored amusement. She spoke in Thai to The tone was sharp. A command. Looked at me. She wiped her face. She told me I had to leave. She told me I could not be here. I refused. I said I was taking her with me. The Mama-san laughed. It was a dry hacking sound. She spoke in English now. Her voice was like gravel. She said had a contract. She said signed a paper. She owed the bar 30,000 baht. Until the money was paid, she belonged to the bar. 30,000 baht. I did the math in my head. It was about 700 pounds. It was not a fortune for a rich man, but for me it was 2 months of rent. It was my food budget for the rest of the trip. I looked at She looked small and broken. She looked at me like I was the only life raft in the middle of the ocean. I looked at the Mama-san. She was smiling. It was the smile of a fisherman who feels a tug on the line. I told them to wait. I turned around and walked out of the bar. The rain had started, a sudden tropical downpour that turned the dust into mud. The water soaked my clothes instantly. I stood in the middle of the street. The neon lights reflected in the puddles. I had a choice. I could walk away. I could go back to my room and sleep and wake up and forget her. But the fantasy was too strong. The image of the innocent girl feeding the stray dog was burned into my retinas. I wanted to be the Pygmalion. I wanted to be the hero of the story. I needed money, fast. I touched the Pelican case slung over my shoulder, my cameras, my glass. I knew a shop on 2nd Road, a pawn shop that dealt in high-end electronics. The owner was a Chinese man who never asked questions. I began to walk. The rain hammered against the plastic case. Each step was a mistake. Each step took me further away from sanity and closer to the trap. I wasn't just walking down the street, I was walking off a cliff. Logic check. Weakness typos the My Fair Lady fantasy. Trap equals bar fine contract buyout. Fatal mistake equal sold livelihood, camera to pay debt. Planned ending equals Henry alone, broke, watching her work again. I stepped into the back of a pink taxi and the door slammed shut. The air conditioning hit me like a physical blow. It smelled of stale jasmine and cigarettes. I told the driver to take me to Sukhumvit Road. He nodded and merged into the traffic without looking. We hit the highway. This was the vein of the city, the concrete artery pumping blood and money through the heart of Bangkok. The rain was coming down harder now. It turned the streetlights into long streaks of red and white on the windshield. The driver drove fast. Too fast. The speedometer needle buried itself on the right side of the dial. We wove between heavy trucks and luxury sedans. The sound of the engine was a constant drone that vibrated through the floorboards and up into my shoes. I clutched the envelope in my jacket pocket. 30,000 baht. It felt heavy. It felt like lead, but it also felt like a key. This was the price of a human soul. That is what I told myself as we sped under the tollway bridges. I was not just buying a woman. I was buying her potential. I was buying her future. I had the textbooks back at my apartment, English grammar, basic mathematics. I had a plan to enroll her in a vocational school for hair and beauty. Was different. She was an orphan. She had no one else in this world but me. She had told me about the debt she owed the bar, a contract she had signed when she was young and foolish, a piece of paper that kept her chained to a stool under neon lights. I was going to break that chain. I was the professor and she was the student, and tonight school was in session. The taxi jerked to a halt. We were there. The lower numbered soas of Sukhumvit, the devil's playground. I paid the driver and stepped out into the humidity. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick enough to chew. It tasted of exhaust fumes and grilled pork. I walked toward the meeting spot. It was a coffee shop 2 blocks away from the bar where she worked, neutral ground. I did not want to step inside that place again. I did not want to see the other girls. They were lost causes. Was the diamond in the rough. She was waiting for me at a corner table. She looked small. She wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans. No makeup. She looked like the village girl I knew was hiding underneath the city paint. When she saw me, she stood up. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. I sat down and ordered a black coffee. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was the caffeine withdrawal, but I knew it was the adrenaline. I asked her if she was ready. She nodded and looked down at her hands. She told me the mama-san was angry. She said the debt had to be paid tonight or they would send her to a different bar in the south, a worse place, a place where girls disappeared. I did not hesitate. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the envelope. The paper was warm from my body heat. I slid it across the table. 30,000 baht, the proceeds from my Nikon Z9 and my best lenses, my career, my YouTube channel, my ability to document the world. I had traded my eyes for her freedom. She took the envelope. She did not open it. She just held it to her chest and closed her eyes. She whispered that I was her savior. She told me I was the only man who had ever treated her like a human being. She said she would go to the bar right now and pay the debt. She would get her passport and her ID card. She would pack her bag. I told her I would wait for her at my apartment. I wanted to start our new life properly. I wanted to cook dinner. She smiled. A genuine smile that reached her eyes. She told me to wait 2 hours, just enough time to settle the accounts and say goodbye to her friends. She kissed my cheek. Her lips were soft and cold. Then she turned and walked out of the coffee shop. I watched her disappear into the crowd on the sidewalk. I felt a surge of pride so strong it almost brought me to tears. I had done it. I had saved her. I went back to my apartment. The room was quiet. I cleaned. I swept the floor. I arranged the English textbooks on the small table by the window. I checked the time. 1 hour had passed. I took a shower and shaved. I put on a clean shirt. I wanted to look respectable. I wanted to look like the mentor she needed. 2 hours passed. I sat on the edge of the bed. I checked my phone. No messages. I told myself she was just delayed. These things take time. Arguments with management, packing clothes, saying goodbyes. 3 hours. The silence in the room began to change. It stopped being peaceful and started being oppressive. It pressed against my ears. The air conditioner hummed a monotonous tune. I stood up and paced the floor. I walked from the door to the window and back again. 4 steps, turn, 4 steps, turn, 4 hours. I tried to call her. The phone rang and then cut to a generic Thai voice message. I called again. straight to voicemail. My stomach began to twist. A cold knot formed in my gut. It was the same feeling I had when I sold the camera, a sense of irreversible loss. I grabbed my keys and ran out the door. I did not wait for the elevator. I took the stairs down 6 flights, my footsteps echoing in the concrete stairwell. I hit the street and hailed a motorcycle taxi. I shouted the name of the SOI. The driver gunned the engine, and we wove through the stalled traffic. The wind whipped my face, but I could not feel it. I arrived at the bar. It was peak time now. The music was loud, heavy bass thumping against the walls. Red and purple lights spilled out onto the pavement. I stood outside for a moment. I was terrified of what I would find, or rather, what I would not find. I was terrified she would be gone, that something bad had happened to her, that the mama-san had taken the money and refused to let her go. I pushed through the heavy wooden doors. The cold air inside smelled of stale beer and cheap perfume. My eyes adjusted to the darkness. The bar was crowded. Western men sat on high stools clutching bottles of beer. Girls in short dresses moved between them like sharks in a reef. I scanned the room. I looked for the empty space where she used to be. I looked for the ghost of the girl I had saved. And then I saw her. She was sitting in the corner booth, the VIP section. She was wearing a red dress I had never seen before. It was tight and covered in sequins that caught the strobe lights. She was holding a glass of tequila. She was not packing her bags. She was not crying. She was laughing. Her head was thrown back and her mouth was open in a wide, genuine laugh. Sitting next to her was a man. He was younger than me, maybe 40. He had a gold chain around his neck and a thick Australian accent. His hand was resting on her knee. She leaned into him and whispered something in his ear. He laughed and handed her a drink. My legs gave out. I stumbled backward and caught myself against a pillar. The room spun. The music distorted into a chaotic noise. 30,000 baht. She looked up. Her eyes swept across the room. For a second, just a fraction of a second, her gaze locked with mine. There was no recognition, no shame, no guilt. Her eyes were flat and hard like polished stones. She looked right through me as if I was part of the furniture, as if I was just another ghost in a graveyard of good intentions. She turned back to the Australian man and stroked his arm. I turned and ran. I pushed past the security guard and stumbled out into the street. The heat hit me again. I walked blindly down the road. I had no camera. I had no money. I had no student. The textbooks were waiting on my table for a ghost that would never arrive. I reached the end of the SOI and collapsed onto a concrete bench near the beach road. The ocean was black and invisible in the night. I checked my pockets. I had 200 baht left, enough for a meal or a few beers, not enough for a hotel, not enough for a future. I started to laugh. It was a dry, hacking sound that hurt my throat. People walked past me and gave me a wide berth. They saw a madman talking to the dark. They saw a crazy old Farang who had lost his mind. They were right. The void opened up inside me. It was vast and empty. I had tried to be a savior, and I had ended up a mark. I had tried to teach a lesson, and I was the one who got schooled. The city did not care. The traffic did not stop. The neon lights flickered on and off, indifferent to my ruin. I sat there as the minutes turned into hours and the money in my pocket turned into dust. Logic check. Weakness equals the My Fair Lady complex. Trap equals the bar fine. Buyout, the savior delusion. Fatal mistake equals selling his livelihood, camera, to buy a weapon for a rescue that isn't needed. Planned ending. Otto. Henry hallucinates filming his own life on Beach Road. I did not stay in the void for long. Anger is a powerful fuel. It burns hotter than charcoal, and it moves faster than reason. I looked at the bag sitting on the dirty tile floor of my hotel room, my camera gear, my lenses, my livelihood. It was glass and metal designed to capture the truth, but I had been using it to film a lie. I needed to change the script. I took a taxi to a shop in Chinatown that did not ask questions. The old man behind the counter looked at my prime lenses like they were pieces of meat. He gave me a price that was an insult. I took it. I didn't care about the value anymore. I cared about the liquidity. I walked out with a thick envelope of cash and an emptiness in my chest where my artistic soul used to be. The next stop was darker. I made a call to a number a comment moderator had sent me months ago. A sketchy contact. The meeting point was a garage off Sukhumvit Soi 22. The air smelled of heavy metal and old engine oil. A fan rattled in the corner trying to slice through the humidity. The man was short and had tattoos climbing up his neck like ivy. He did not smile. He placed the object on the oil-stained table. A snub-nosed revolver, heavy, cold. It looked like a prop from a bad detective movie, but the weight was real. The fear in my gut was real. I handed over the envelope. I was not a photographer anymore. I was the hero of this story, and heroes need weapons. I convinced myself I was doing this for She had returned to the bar because she was forced. She was a victim of the system. I would go down there. I would pay her bar fine one last time, or I would make sure no one else could pay it. I was going to teach them a lesson in civility. The sky turned black as I walked back to the main road. The clouds were bruised and swollen. A storm was coming. It matched the thunder in my head. I tucked the cold steel into the waistband of my trousers and hailed a motorbike taxi. I told him to drive fast. We hit the Sukhumvit Road highway and the heavens opened. The rain did not fall, it hammered. It came down in sheets so thick you could drown just by looking up. The traffic slowed to a crawl. Red taillights smeared across my vision like fresh blood. I got off near the district. The water was already ankle deep. It soaked through my shoes and my socks. My shirt clung to my skin. I marched toward the neon lights of the bar where I had met her, where I had saved her, where I had lost her. I stood across the street. The rain washed the mascara off the city. Then I saw her. She was not chained. She was not crying. She was standing under the awning of the bar, laughing. She was wearing the red dress I had bought her, the dress that was supposed to be for our dinners, for our new life. She had her hand on the arm of a man. He was younger than me, stronger. He looked like a tourist on his first night. Fresh meat. She whispered something in his ear and he laughed. It was the same whisper she had given me, the same secret joke. I snapped. I ran across the street, splashing black water onto the pavement. I grabbed her arm. The music from the bar was thumping a bass line that matched my heart. She spun around. Her eyes went wide, not with love, with annoyance. I screamed at her. I told her I knew. I told her I was here to take her away. I told her she did not have to do this. She ripped her arm away. She looked at me like I was a stray dog that had followed her home. She shouted back. Her voice cut through the rain and the thunder. She told me to go home. She told me the money was gone. She told me the husband I thought she was running from was sitting inside the bar, counting the cash I had given her. It was a business. It was always a business. The young tourist stepped between us. He puffed out his chest. He wanted to be the hero now. He wanted to save her from the crazy old man. I reached for my waistband. My fingers touched the cold grip of the gun. This was the moment, the climax, the scene where the villain falls and the truth is revealed. But I looked at Her face was hard. There was no orphan there. There was no village girl needing an education. There was only a shark in high heels. She laughed. It was a dry, cruel sound. She told me I was boring. That word hit me harder than a bullet. Boring. I was not a tragedy to her. I was not a savior. I was just a transaction that had taken too long to process. My hand fell away from the gun. I could not shoot. You cannot kill a reflection in a mirror. You only break the glass. The young tourist shoved me. I stumbled back into the gutter. The water rushed over my expensive shoes. I sat there in the filth as they turned around and walked back into the neon glow. The door closed. The bass line continued. The rain kept falling. I do not remember how I got to Pattaya. The journey is a blank space in the edit, a corrupted file. I'm on Beach Road now. The sun is setting and the sky is a bruised purple. It is a beautiful shot. The lighting is perfect. I walk along the promenade. My camera bag is gone, but I can still feel the weight of it on my shoulder. It is muscle memory, or maybe it is a phantom limb. I lift my hands. I make a rectangle with my fingers and thumbs. I frame the scene. There is a girl sitting on a bench. She looks lonely. She looks like she needs help. She looks like a story waiting to be told. I start talking. I narrate the scene. I explain the composition. I talk about the aperture and the shutter speed. I explain how the light hits her hair. People walk past me. They give me space. They look at the old white man talking to his empty hands. They see a madman. They see a ghost. But they are wrong. I'm not mad. I'm a director. I'm making a documentary about love. It is going to be a masterpiece. I approach the girl on the bench. I lower my hands. I smile the smile of a gentleman. I ask her if she speaks English. I ask her if she wants to learn. She looks up. She smiles. It is the same smile. I know it is a lie. I know the script by heart now. But I do not care. The show must go on. I sit down next to her. I reach into my pocket. There is no money there, only dust. But for a few minutes until the credits roll, I can pretend. I tell her I can save her. She nods. She believes me. Cut to black.